I've been thinking a lot about the different ways in which my creativity has been expressing itself lately, or not in certain instances. And over the last few weeks, if you have watched my YouTube videos before, you will know that I have been considering restarting The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. When I reflect on the person that I was at the beginning of my first undertaking with The Artist's Way, because I've done it 3 times before, but in full disclosure, I have never actually finished all 12 weeks. I'm someone who really does thrive on accountability. I really enjoy things like buddy reading novels with other people because the process of witnessing and sharing what's in my mind and my heart with another person is a really exciting part of that process. I think that's why I've always gravitated towards writing as my chosen medium because there's something so unique about the writing process wherein the reader will ingest your words and mull them over through the lens of their own life experiences, their own emotional responses to the things on the page. This thing that you have created, this creative essence that you have put out into the world, may be interpreted by the reader as something completely different than the author maybe intended. I find that that often gives me the passion to write and to share what's in my heart and mind because there's either going to be resonance or there's going to be such a differentiation that my own creativity grows, my own personal scope grows and expands. I just find that so exciting personally. So, bringing that back to the artist way, I want to share more of that journey here on YouTube because I think that is that accountability piece that I have sometimes missed in the last few attempts to make it through all 12 weeks. I think one of the coolest aspects of content creation is being able to connect with and witness the creativity and the drive and the purpose and the artistry of people who in some ways feel very similarly to how I feel about the willingness to put that out into the public. That being said, today I am starting week 1. I always get a little bit nervous when starting the artist way because some of the questions that Julia Cameron, the author of this 12-week course, asks you to probe into your past in a way that can sometimes be very painful or bring up memories that are not pleasant. Many of us, I would say actually anyone pursuing a creative goal or artistry of any kind, enters that journey with a lot of pain already. It can either encourage you to stop that journey altogether because, frankly, sometimes that's the easier choice, not choosing to pursue that creative identity. That is sometimes the easier path. I've gone down that road, and what's crazy is that the whole time that I wasn't living a creative identity, I was creating something. And the thing that I was creating was a person that was becoming deeply resentful of this inner knowing that I was continually ignoring every day. The only thing that follows is dysfunction and frustration, anger, resentment. The list continues. And when I finally discovered the artist way in 2020, as I mentioned in my prior video, there was this overwhelming instinct to buy this book and dive into the program. Now, again, I had gotten really used to ignoring that inner knowing and that inner voice. And so I didn't. I shelved the book for 3 years and I didn't come back to it until after my dad had passed away. And I really needed something to help me rediscover who I was. And I felt like the The perfect time to do that was when I was kind of in the middle of grief, because grief fundamentally changes your identity. Maybe I'll go into that in a different video, but it was the perfect time to launch into intentional self discovery. That came with its own inner monologue of fear and doubt. The Artist's Way is so successful in helping you quiet that noise. And I really need that because my head is very noisy. I am just trying to get better at living in a way that isn't separate from my creative identity. The Artist's Way is a 12-week course written by Julia Cameron that has you work through revealing your creative identity or excavating something that has been lost. There are tasks, exercises, and questions that you need to journal about, mull over, really getting you to understand how you have structured your life outside of creativity and how to reverse some of that. Each week, you are challenged to take yourself on an artist date, and this is where you go alone. It's a solo thing. You take yourself out, you go to the library, you check out books, you go to a museum and you sit and study paintings, or you go to a movie and look at the cinematography or whatever it is that you are interested in doing, something that inspires a creative spark within you. I am wanting to do this journey week by week and share insights and maybe tips. Any kind of creative endeavor, whether you are building a business or whether you are actually pursuing fine arts, whether you're wanting to write a book, whatever it is that you want to build, I think you can benefit from the Artist Way, even if it isn't an explicit creative piece or creative artistry that you're trying to make. And that creativity can be applied to a myriad of areas in your life. But this is a challenge. It does challenge you, it stretches you, it gets you beyond your immediate reality in a way that is useful and effective to sort of excavating what has been hidden below. Living in anything other than that authentic reality feels inexcusable and impossible. Each month, I sit down with my planner and I take a moment to go over the prior month. I love to make a cup of tea and just settle in. I ask myself what went well, what didn't, based on prior goals, where are there opportunities for the next month. I'm currently using the Wonderland 222 A5 planner that contains quarterly, monthly, and weekly segments, as well as plenty of space for commonplace journaling in the back, which I love. I usually start by taking stock of my daily habit tracker, of looking at what I was able to be consistent in and what needs more attention next month. And then I will make a monthly theme with some supporting goals, and this time I made a spring bucket list with a few items that will just help me slow down and enjoy the next month intentionally. But what I really love about the Wonderland 222 planner is their monthly review and overview. So I break these sections up into 4 categories: mind and body, personal to-do, social content and work growth, and then miscellaneous notes. I hone in on things like my health, home and life maintenance, family plans, basically the day-to-day admin of my life. And then in the next month's overview, this is where I will write out the steps I need to take in order to accomplish the monthly goals I set earlier. This is basically a daily breakdown on how to get one step further in each goal. And then I also keep track of my social media growth on the respective outlets that I post on. And then it's time to move on to my Notion template. While my physical planner tends to focus on day to day life maintenance, I love to use Notion for my high level creative endeavors like Substack, YouTube, TikTok content creation, as well as ideas for writing the book I'm outlining. So I love this template from Sarah at the Slow Living Diaries, which I've linked in the description below. While I've tweaked her template a little bit, I love how she encourages us to make it a space of inspiration, adding photos, quotes, colors, other items to just spark creativity. I also, at the top, add a sentence that encapsulates my personal monthly theme. Again, add those supporting images and personalize the page to reinforce that theme. So then I pop over to Pinterest and I find quotes and pins that I compile into a monthly Pinterest board. I have really loved doing this because it reminds me of one of the activities early on in the Artist Way that Julia Cameron has readers do, where we make a file of dreams, as she calls it. And these are essentially collected images that inspire us creatively and help us visualize our creative future. So I've been making a monthly Pinterest board each month of 2026, and I'm excited to look back and see what comes of this exercise. So once I have everything gathered, I pop those quotes and photos back into Notion and just finish customizing the page for the month of April. I wanted lots of green and natural imagery to highlight the season of rebirth. This little ritual really helps me feel prepared to head into the coming month and gives me a reference point if I feel like I'm scrolling on my phone too much and just need to redirect back into my creative and personal goals. And so I found that separating the personal from these high level creative goals really helped me get a closer view of what was working versus what wasn't actually getting done on a month to month basis. I got a couple exciting packages in the mail today, and I wanted to show you quickly what I got. The first is some book mail from the lovely folks at Julia Publicity, and this is for a new lit fic that's coming out March 31st called The Surrogate by Lynn C. Miller. The little blurb at the top says, "Can you replace someone you've loved and lost?" Alex Ross is a 30-year-old psychologist who comes from a very close knit family. Her mother and her aunt are particularly close, as they're twins who married two close friends. And Alex has close relationships, kind of sibling like, with her cousins. But when one of her cousins is killed in a car accident, it completely sends the family into a spiral of chaos and grief. But here's where it gets interesting. Enter Nathaniel, who is a mysterious art museum curator, seems to offer the family solace. And it sounds like he starts to kind of have maybe a relationship with Alex's aunt. And Alex also finds herself infatuated with this guy, but something happens where this art museum curator, Nathaniel, kind of thrusts the family into like a nationwide scandal. And Alex has to choose between this man she's infatuated with and her family. And of course, grief makes everything muddy and unclear and confusing. And so I'm really excited to read this actually. Honestly, some of the content sounded like it hits close to home. As I mentioned on this channel, I lost my father a few years ago, and it fundamentally changed my family. So I'm very excited to do a deep dive into this psychological lit fic called The Surrogate by Lindsay Miller. The folks at Mrs. Myers reached out to me recently asking if I wanted to be a brand partner, essentially, obviously, creating content for them and receiving gifted products in return. And so I got my first gifted package today, and I just wanted to share what was inside because I'm excited. I've got the Mrs. Myers Daisy Scent dish soap. It smells incredible, fresh, citrusy, exactly what I'm looking for in my like home cleaning supply scents. So I got their traditional hand soap. This has olive oil and aloe vera in it. And then last but not least, we have their multi-surface cleaner. So I am really excited to start my content creation journey with Mrs. Myers. I am a Taurus moon, And while I don't create explicitly lifestyle content, my environment is very important to me. I surround myself with nostalgic, cozy, comforting things. I like my home to smell good. So I felt like this was a sensical adjacent to some of the content that I do make, especially on YouTube, which is a little bit more, I guess, verges on lifestyle sometimes. But, and then the last thing, the lovely people at my book embosser reached out to me around my birthday asking if I wanted to receive a few gifted book embossers, and I was able to choose my own labels, and I was gifted so generously two different book embossers. And so the first one has my initials sort of on top of one another. And then the second one is this beautiful leaf sort of motif, again, kind of leaning into that Taurus moon nature vibe. But this is so easy to use. I was shocked. It comes with a very concise visual. You just slip the disc into the embosser, gently press down on the page you would like to be embossed, and it comes away clean. There is no breakages in the actual embossing on the book page, which I was, I've used some book embossers in the past, and that was a big complaint is that when you press the disc down, it literally breaks through the page of your book, which that's a no go for me. I don't want the pages of my book ripped.